One of the things that is really interesting with today's economy is the fact that it has taken quite a bit of time to get to this point of crisis that we seem to be in. The other side of that is it's also a tremendous opportunity for us to turn things around, to become more prosperous and successful, to be happier in what we do on a daily basis, to have more time to lead fulfilling lives that are not attached to just our work environment. Many people, their work environment seems to dictate or describe who they are, and what they do for a living, regardless of their stature, is what they do for a living. It's not who they are. And there are people in many walks of life, and I'm talking about from seemingly mundane positions to executive positions and the whole range in between, that have a lot to contribute if they would get out of their position and into what really makes a difference. Because what really makes a difference is us. It's people. And I don't know how many of you have had problems and frustrations over making a phone call and getting a machine, and if you want to talk to this person or this department, you press 1, then 2, then 3, and so on and so forth. And granted, in some respects, it probably has cut costs. On the other side of the coin, it has cut service, and what has happened is we have diverted away from a lot of services that we used to perform. And what's interesting is some of the things that are being cut now in the economic environment has to do with a lot of the services that we're providing for various entities, education, senior care, the list goes on and on and on. Use your imaginations with it. Major corporations, including and not limited to insurance companies, medical equipment manufacturers, drug manufacturers, your automobile manufacturers. And what's really interesting with this, at one point in time, I'd say probably even 15 or 20 years ago, you could go out and buy a piece of equipment, and that piece of equipment would last you quite some time. I'm certainly not implying forever, because I think you know as well as I do that we all have a tendency to get bored and we want to upgrade. There's no such thing as just getting there and staying there, because we're creators. That's who we are here for. That's what we do, is we create. And if your life isn't working, you have the ability to make some changes in it. You have the ability to do the things you want, but do them with integrity and with honesty. The insurance companies spend more money than you could ever imagine finding ways not to pay claims and not to provide care. The third-party administrators and the PBOs and the HMOs, a lot of the costs have been shifted, and there's the actual money that gets into health care and patient care, which is part of the financial economic problem right now, doesn't get to patient care. It stops before it ever even gets into the doctors or the hospital's hands. And what they're doing is they're getting creative with the way that they do things in order to try to keep certain things afloat. But all that's happened is we've perpetuated that part of the problem. In many other areas, talking about people losing their homes right now and having problems with their home is another major issue. And what's unfortunate about that is there's ways that they could charge an interest rate that could almost even be a simple interest rate and still make money on it. And yet, by the time your home is paid for, the front end, and I'm not sure how many years, unless you're one of the people that was smart enough or at least informed enough to make double the amount in your principal on your home. But what it amounts to is you pay a huge amount of money, more than what the actual cost of whatever your dwelling is. That's another area that needs to be addressed. And I think that overall, you take a look at the insurance companies, back to the insurance companies, and insurance companies tie into property because you've got homeowners insurances And a lot of times your deductibles are so high you can't get things taken care of the way you should. And yet, initially, the reason insurance companies were established was to take care of those kinds of things. And something went amiss in the middle of it. And so we have those issues. And so when you collectively take all of these problems and you put them together, and God bless President Obama, I knew he was getting into, he knew what he was getting into on some level, but there's no way until he actually took office just how serious the issue was. And you take a look at, and a lot of people blame President Bush. I don't blame anybody specifically. I think this is a collective problem, and it's going to take a collective consciousness to resolve it. War is certainly not the answer. On the other hand, we can't bury our heads if we're threatened. Unfortunately, in many cases, it's the few that create the problems for the many. And that is not limited to just war. It's the few that do dishonest things, that do the things that create the problems for a lot of other very honest people. The core of many, 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 many human beings is basically very good. Inside each one of us is a battle that goes on. You can call it a battle between right and wrong, good and evil. Everybody has their own words for it, but there's one side of us that tries to talk us into something and the other side that might try to talk us out of it. And the most important thing is now we all have to focus on ways to try to make this better. We can all make a difference. Some people think, well, what can I do to do with this? Even when you throw a piece of trash out on the street, somebody's paid to pick it up. Everything that we do matters. Hold the door open for somebody. Try a kindness. There's so many ways. I mean, I'm a coupon queen in a lot of respects, but the most important thing is that we need to work together with this, guys. I have a website. The website is new-agecenter.com. It's being worked on now. We'll be up and running. It's up and running, but it's not the way that I want it to be, which is a whole other story, and I'll go into that later. But the most important thing is you are important. You do make a difference. And along these same lines, what's really interesting, the label psychic was put on me years and years and years ago by doctors and scientists because they didn't understand a lot of the things that I do or I see. And what's interesting is the word psychic, literally, if you look it up in the dictionary, means of the mind or the soul. Every one of you have minds and souls. You all have gifts you're meant to use in different areas, and we'll get into that. And you don't have to be psychic and read people's minds or any of the other stuff. Use the God-given gifts that you have. I call it God. I'm comfortable with that. Call it whatever you want it. But use the gifts that you have to further the benefit of everyone. You can do it. We can all make a difference. Check out my website. Thanks. Have a great day.